Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. I am back for episode number 393 after a week of shenanigans and bullshit. As I did listen to both episodes that you guys put out.
Wait, do you mean you had shenanigans and bullshit, or us?
Polite description of last week's shows.
Well, you guys did, and they weren't bad shows. I know you guys started episode 390.
Wow, thanks.
390.
Thanks, Dad.
2, and you guys were like, I don't know what we're gonna talk about. This show is gonna suck, and I'm like, well, all right, I'm in for this, and it wasn't that bad. And 391, the listener question episode, pretty good. Sounds like you guys know what you're talking about. Way to go! I've trained you all very well.
Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast.
This is the most he's ever praised us, like ever.
Even in what, 5 years of this show now? 6? What do you on?
You know, besides the whole serial microphone snafu on Monday, when he's like, "Hey, we're brought to you by this company," and oh wait, I fucked up.
Yeah, I had the microphone was apparently going through the headset one that you can see up top if you're watching live or on YouTube, and it was and I had put that microphone up because I wasn't planning on using it, but apparently Audacity thought otherwise.
Right. So what he's speaking of is we have a couple of HyperX headsets.
Yeah,
they're going to be pissed you screwed that up.
Well, it's a good thing they're probably not listening yet, because we're going to send them the episode we actually use the headsets on. Yes, they're HyperX headsets. What is the name of them, Serial?
Cloud Stinger.
Thank you. HyperX Cloud Stinger headsets. We have been using them for last week, and we're going to do a couple podcasts with them on starting next week. I actually meant to do it tonight, but with a storm flying into Ohio that about took out everything, including my car, I forgot to sit down and set my headset up and make sure it sounded good before we got podcasting. So
you know, all it takes is plugging it into your computer. And then it works.
Well, it does, but there is some adjustments that would need to be made to be able to podcast with it.
No.
Yes.
Oh, to use the microphone for it, sure.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
I heard this thing called Scarlet.
I'm listening. I've been listening with these the whole time. It's crazy, you know.
Punch nose. Do you see this thing right here called Scarlet? This is
The devil
this thing right here.
What's that?
Well, that's my headset.
breaks everything.
And that's my
What are you
microphone.
talking? It looks wonderful.
And every time I talk, that little light right there. See, look, it lights up every time I talk.
Can I have one?
Why would you want?
Why would you want one?
You?
Scarlet's
Why wouldn't
awful.
Everything that goes wrong technically is because of Scarlet.
Yeah, but it looks
Everything.
amazing, and it probably has really great potential. I am more than willing to put up with all of the risks and potential downside.
I mean,
because it looks cool.
Dom Trust in its heart of gold.
I've got lots of these things. I've got the Pile XLR input, and I've got the Xenix XLR input. And by the way, if you have there's any audio engineers out there that know how to get the Q802 USB version of this thing, you found it right on Amazon, know how to get this thing fucking working, please email me. I will sit down with you on Skype. I'll give you an RP, because I have this beast of a mixer that I really want to use, but every time I try to use it, it doesn't fucking work.
Looks like a calculator from the 90s.
It does.
And I also have the little Pile thing. Seriously, if you're an audio engineer out there and want to help me make one of these work, I'll give you RP for it. Just email me. feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com.
Yeah, and maybe quick go, 5 minutes into the show and see them on cam if you don't normally watch on YouTube.
Yeah, if you go youtube.com/T-Force Podcast, if you want to see what I'm talking about, you can look at them. Let's just jump right in. We're going to be talking about patch 6.21 tonight. There won't be a ton of discussion about patch 6.21 because there's not really a lot there.
Because it's boring. Boring patch. There's just nothing like...
Wait, we're actually talking about that and not all of the stuff that we could talk about that came out today?
No,
really?
We'll talk about that stuff later.
Well, no, here's the thing. We're going to talk about 6.21 tonight, and then we're going to jump in probably for the last half an hour or more about the rest of what came out today with all the Assassins update, everything that's on the PBE. Plus this weekend, some of us, I'm going to go sit down on the PBE this weekend and play with a lot of these new champions so I can give you a better impression come Monday. Because Monday, we're going to start diving hard and heavy into all the Assassins update. We just want some more time to read and play and whatnot, whatever it may be.
So we're going through the whole PBE list tonight. So buckle up, boys. We're going to be here for a while.
And not to mention, we actually have a lot of time to talk about this PBE stuff because a lot of it's there's a lot of stuff that's not on the PBE yet. There's a lot of updates that'll probably get tweaked and whatnot. And there's like 3 more. I think what Dom, you said there's 3 weeks.
It's a 3-week patch cycle as opposed to a 2-week. So we get basically an extra 2 shows to talk about it if we need the time.
Yeah, unlike
We'll
last
probably
time.
need the time.
Probably. Especially if we're going to sit down and be like, we're going to talk about this and this. Plus, I want to bring on a couple people. I want to bring on like Bao Bao, who is a Diamond 1 Rengar main. I want him to come on and talk about the new Rengar changes. I'm going to try to find some people that may play Talon or whatnot. Or we may just pick Bao's brain about a lot of these changes because he plays a lot of the Assassins and climbed really high with them. And it'd be good to talk to him. So let's just jump in and talk about patch 6.21. Like I said, there's really not too much to talk about. For those of you that aren't in the know, patch 6.21 is kind of like the precursor to preseason. They're just kind of like tweaking champions a little bit to get ready for the preseason. And like
That's the last one.
The final ranked push, they think maybe these champions are a little too much or something, and so let's make them less much.
Yeah, by the way, you have 19 days, probably 17 by the time you listen to this podcast or less until the end of the season. And the new rank season starts on December 6th, which is less than 1 month.
Yeah,
really happy about. There have been a bunch of times where I had days off at the end of the year and would have loved to like hop in and do some ranked because it was like I'm not seeing family. Family's not here. I just have to burn vacation time. And I still played League, but I couldn't do any ranked stuff. And this year that won't be the case on either side.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was January last year.
Yeah, it was middle of January or something
Oh,
like that.
so long.
So we get about 29 days or so in between. It'll be nice.
So students on Christmas break or whatever, holiday break, time for you to play. Anyway.
Yep. All right, let's talk about Nidalee. Just really, the Nidalee changes are kind of like quality of life changes. They made the Q, W, and E. They just added a second to all of those, so the cooldown is 1 second longer. And they also made the healing on Primal Surge. They decreased it a bit. My takeaway from this is the actual like Nidalee mains and straight up Nidalee 1 tricks are quickly going to adjust to this and figure out how to deal with everything. And the Nidalee bandwagoners are going to be the ones who actually get screwed by, particularly the adjustment to her healing.
Like if you pounce in a wrong direction and all of a sudden you've got a second longer cooldown before you can get out of there. Yeah, that's a problem.
From what I've been reading, like they said, it's just a quality of life type of thing, and they can feel the extra second for now, but they'll quickly get used to it and still be able to work. It slows her initial clear down a bit and makes it so she's a little less healthy when she walks out of the jungle. Plus the trades and what she may have.
What is your definition of a quality of life buff?
Well,
or change?
No, it's a quality of life nerf.
It's a second, and that's all on Cougar abilities. By the way, I don't think you said that. It's the Cougar QW, not her human form abilities.
Right.
Yeah, quality of life for everybody playing against Nidalee.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's really
for the jungle.
Really
the jungle appreciates
which honestly we all needed. She's a miserable beast in which to play against. So
yeah, they talk about the window of opportunity again. They loved talking about that this season. It seems they wanted to give more of an opportunity to actually engage on Nidalee if she makes a mistake, as opposed to
get used to window of opportunity. That's going to be their catchphrase for like 3 more years.
Yeah.
Before we're playing League of Legends 2.
Yeah,
so maybe you can catch Nidalee, maybe you can kill her. Maybe.
Maybe.
That healing nerf is pretty strong though, I think. Because it's like it at its highest amount that you can pump out, you're getting 5 more healing. If you're at the max, I don't know what the max is. They don't mention that, but it's based on missing health. It scales up. It like scales from pretty much where you were before is the max amount, and then if you're healing somebody who's at full health, they get half of that healing. So you're having you're crushing a lot of this healing. I think that's kind of weird.
The ratio goes up a little bit,
which isn't noted in there. They actually messed up those numbers there because it should be. It doesn't say 27.5 in the later numbers.
the later numbers.
No, it does. This is ratio 0.275 to 0.55.
Yeah, it's
willpower.
0.275 if you're like more or less at full health, and if you're missing a ton of health, then it goes up to 0.55. That's what they're saying.
Yeah. No, I must be looking at a slightly older one then. But she's never going to be not. I don't know what it's going to take for her to not be viable. And,
A second or third rework, whatever we're on.
Removing all of her abilities would make her not viable. Serial.
that is true. You should work for Riot and just we want to just destroy this champ for a while, so we're taking away any abilities.
Whatever they do, they do the same
I'm
thing.
mad at you for using the word viable. That's all.
I knew, like, the moment Mitch said it, I knew Adam was angry. I didn't actually think he'd call it out on the show. I shouldn't have thought that, but...
Hey, Dom, you're the reason I started hating the word viable in the first place.
I know I am.
You brought it up one day. I'm like, damn, he's right. This is bullshit. All right, Ashe, just they fixed Ranger's focus so that it doesn't cost a ton of mana if you spam it.
Have you ever noticed that,
No.
Mr. Occasional Ashe player?
No, but I bet you it's happened. I'm sure it's happened, and I'd never.
Of all the
noticed it.
buttons to spam, I don't know. I wouldn't feel like Ranger's Focus is one of them. I would think maybe your flash button you'd spam a lot, like you're CC'd and you want to get the fuck out of there, but Ranger's Focus,
It's
it's a weird bug.
I can see myself I've spammed Ranger Focus before because I've counted one off. Like I thought I had that extra auto attack in, so I started spamming it.
But you canceled or something?
Right, like I'll cancel an auto to try to get the auto, or I'll try to, you know what I mean? Like I'll try to like step after an auto and start it. I'm like, why am I not attacking as much as I thought I was supposed to be? And because I'm putting myself in position to stand still and use Ranger Focus essentially. And yeah, didn't happen.
So that probably affects her laning more than anything else, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you don't really run out of mana late game.
Yeah, I mean it's anyone who's mashing the button and losing mana at an additional rate, which is I mean that's got to be the smallest grouping of people.
Those people probably think Ashe is bad because they're always out of mana.
Why the hell is Q costing 300 mana? Where did my mana pool go?
That's how I feel every time I spam W now. Where did my mana pool go? All right, let's talk about quick draw and Graves. They want quick draw to be your engaged tool and not just the disengaged tool. So what they're doing is they're increasing the true grit cap to 8 stacks, and you now gain 2 stacks of true grit upon dashing toward an enemy champion.
But
It's worth noting that they lowered each stack's amount of resist to half, so you don't actually get anything more if you're at the higher rank. Yeah, it's definitely a nerf. Which is weird. Like again, is he being played a ton?
Yeah.
Sorry, is that a better word? Is that a better word for you?
Yes.
Bone? Not going to trigger you?
Yes, that's better. I see Graves. I saw Graves a lot. I see a lot of people try to play Graves out of the jungle, and I don't think I've run the Graves for a very long time.
He's got in Plat Plus, at least, he's got the 4th highest play rate in the jungle. So
he's not good. Stop playing him out of the jungle, please. He's not good in solo queue. He's fucking
he's
terrible.
breaking even. Whatever. People like Lee Sin has a 30% play rate and is at a 48.27 win rate. I mean,
that champion, unless he's insanely broken, will never break 50% win rate.
Yeah, it's true. I just don't you got to work so hard. I mean, he can do really cool, good things, but you got to work so hard to do it, and I just don't have the energy.
I wish there was a champion next that used energy, so I could be like, speaking of,
yeah, that would have been nice.
Oh darn!
Ivan's a bit later down this, so
Ivan got a change in this patch. If you haven't been looking, his internal, I mean, you guys talked about his internal numbers are pretty low, and they're kind of giving him some extra love. His health growth stat is now 90 from 74. Excuse me. Base magic resist is up to 32. Base attack speed is up to 0.644. And attack speed growth is up to 3.4. So it just buffs straight across the board for everything.
He's still struggle bugging.
This is already live though. This is in between patches.
Right.
So this is just kind of a reminder of what they did, and he still sucks.
I want him to be good. I want him to be good so bad.
I
I
good
actually
too.
do think he's really, really, really good. I just think he has such a high skill cap
I can see that.
that he's just going to be so hard to play. Like, I do think he's actually really, really, really good.
But the skill cap plus your team has to adjust to it too. Like it's not just you adjusting your play style. It's a little bit more than a normal nuke champion would do. It's like your team has to at least be aware of what you're doing.
Oh,
I won't be surprised if one of the later changes to him, if he ends up actually needing love, would be to give him the face of the mountain treatment that they have on the PBE right now, which would be to always cast the shield on Ivern and then also cast it on a secondary target. So think Nunu's Blood Boil.
Oh, okay.
I can see that happening. Even in just playing him, the meager amount that I did, it felt like I never could choose correctly with that shield because I'd be in the fray and want to shield myself. But was it better to shield Daisy because she was going down? Was it better to shield an ally and me to back out? They're just like it never felt like there was a correct way to
they'd have to destroy that slow amount though, because having two 70% slows would be ridiculous.
Yeah, cut it down.
But that'd be cool. But yeah, cut down to like 50. Cut it down to like 50, and take the shield amount to like 70 or 80% of what it's at right now. I think that'd be pretty good. You should work for Riot. I know I joked about Pwn should, but actually that was a good idea.
Let's talk about Kog'Maw, Living Artillery. I want to say they're essentially just retuning it, or kind of like they're retuning / reverting what it does to be less of an execute and more of his spammy ability that he had previously.
Yeah, like how he worked before. He would throw these in between auto attacks, particularly early when he didn't have a ton of attack speed.
And
it just costed too much mana to do that.
Yeah, they're
okay.
They're decreasing the mana cost. The mana buff duration has gone down, so it only lasts for 8 seconds rather than 10. You know how you stack it every time the mana increases. Base damage has been increased. The execution threshold has been decreased with it, however, because it's no longer an execute. And the execution threshold, again, has the second part of that, where it does exponentially better damage, has also been decreased. So it's no longer an execute. It's more like that spam in between, which potentially means Kog'Maw's going back to Trinity Force.
He's already building that based on what the data I'm seeing here. And even that doesn't matter because he's still hovering around 45-46%.
He's going to need, I think, I don't think that's that necessarily that Kog'Maw's bad. It's just that the current state of the game is not great for the hyper carries like Kog'Maw to live. Those really the game doesn't go long enough for Kog'Maw.
And it's only going to get worse for him in the future.
Assassins. Yay, his best friends.
Lee Sin had a change. Resonating Strike and Safeguard once again dropped Lee Sin directly on top of his target. So, Master Yi had some bug changes, which, if you really care about the Master Yi changes, like you're a crazy Master Yi player, you should probably just go read them to figure out how it works. They really are just like quality of life Alpha Strike changes, so that it functions more like you expect it to. I'm not going to go through that with it because it just makes it work more like you expect it to work. Nasus, this is probably one of with Nidalee, this is probably one of the bigger changes in the patch, and that's Siphoning Strike. The increased range you get when you press Q is added onto the range that R provides as well. So when you're in R, you get 200 range rather than 175 when you press Q. So you get an extra 25 range.
And speaking of R.
Yes. And speaking of R, R now grants 15, 35, 55 armor and magic resist on activation and gains an additional 1, 2, 3 armor magic resist every second. So you gain a total of 30, 65, 100 resistance at 15 seconds.
Holy fuck.
To me, for context, because there aren't a ton of Nasus players out there, when Nasus pressed R in the past, he gained attack damage based on how much damage his ult had been dealing. He actually, he got health and he had the AoE damage, but he didn't get any resistances or anything else along those lines. To me, this change makes it so that his ult actually does what you would expect it to do when you press that ability, instead of being really, really misleading. He was already going to two-shot you anyway because of stacking Q, so adding all of that extra damage to his auto attack was sort of superfluous. And now this is a much, much bigger change that I honestly think affects the way that he's going to build things in the long run. Others might disagree.
Like what you said, he could kill you in 2 hits, but getting to that person was the problem, right? If you never get to them, then it doesn't matter. The attack damage didn't matter. But now that he's a true raid boss, you could.
But then you're getting to him.
Ezreal doesn't care about that.
Lucian doesn't care about that.
That too.
But see,
But yeah,
I don't
now
know.
he's a true raid boss. Like
Nasus doesn't care about Ezreal and stuff. Nasus just wants to hit whatever's in front of him, and he'll pretty much two-shot anybody at a certain point in the game.
Okay. Besides the point, the fact is he's unkillable now. All right, so you can get to wherever he wants.
Why they're capping the amount? Like so you get to that capped amount at 15 seconds, which is when your ultimate ends, which doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like they would have that come at like 2/3 of the way through your ultimate and have you at that max resistances for a little bit. It doesn't. What happens? You get to that last tick to get to 100 arm magic resistance, and it's off, and you're like, oh well, that was cool having that last extra 3.
I mean, he's already going to build bruisery anyway, so it's not like he's relying on this to be his only resistances. So
it just seems awkward to cap it, get to the maximum right as your ultimate ends. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in my mind.
Bit of a different mechanic.
I like the Nasus changes because, like Dom said, that makes more sense. It you get that instant gratification of pressing R now where you are tankier. But Nasus, to me, has always been that, like, plat 5 and below secret OP that I think every top laner should have in their arsenal or should be ready to play. Like, if you're in silver, for example, you're sitting at, like, silver, 4 or 3, and you're a top laner, honestly, I think you should be not almost always, but, like, the majority of time spamming Nasus when it's advantageous.
Please do not bring that cancer upon the world, sir.
I firmly believe that, like, people will tell me, I was talking to Crazy Phil, he's like, Nasus isn't even good. I'm like, dude, Nasus is fucking phenomenal in silver, because those games, as long as you have decent lane presence and have the understanding of when to trade and how Nasus works, right? Like, it does require a little bit of skill to understand how the champion plays, that you will carry that game, because the majority of silver games that I've played, and I have this season taken one account from silver 5 to silver 1, just in my spare time.
And another from silver 1 to diamond 5. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that too. But those games, they last a very long time. Like, the majority of those games, if they're not stomps, they go to 45 minutes or so. And Nasus just gets better as the game's going on, as long as you're farming. And that's probably
it's a different
caveat.
meta in silver and Nasus. Yeah. I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly. I know Punch doesn't like the idea. Punch, you're in plat 5.
No, I agree with you. I do agree with you. It's just, not the most exciting thing in the world to farm for 30 minutes and then never leave top lane. But hey, if that's your gig, then go for it.
That's your gig.
Just keep going top lane.
I played a bunch of games with you. That's your gig.
Yeah, that's Punch's gig. Punch doesn't leave. Yeah, no, Punch is like, I'm taking the tower. They're like 4-man diving us, but I'm taking the tower, guys.
Oh, you're dead at that point. I mean, I can't. There's no hope in you. You're screwed. I'm just taking the turret.
Okay, so Nocturne had to change his void. The W particles match the skin. Nunu, who has been, I guess, a nuisance, and I'll eat my hat in that one and say that.
Yeah,
Nunu
I think there's a lot of crow getting eaten over here.
Right. Bonus health per stack has been decreased to 2% rather than 3. They try to tone him back a little bit. So there you go. That's that. Zach, probably the third biggest change I'd say in this patch is that there's a warning indicator, and shadow particles now show up 0.75 seconds before Zach lands. If his travel duration is shorter than that, they appear immediately. So you can see where Zach is coming into.
Yeah, you got a very small window to maybe flash if you're fast enough.
Which is a nerf, but it's also in line with a lot of abilities. Cho'Gath and Nami, for example. Mm-hmm. Both of their knock-up AoE things have that nice, clear indicator. So hopefully you enjoyed it while it lasted. Zach players, now people are probably going to dodge a little bit better. If you're good, you're still going to hit them, but...
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's weird to, like, you can't always see exactly where it's going to go is kind of the big thing. Yeah, it is lining up with Cho and them, but, like, if you just, like, looked at a mid-flight Zach, there's a bunch of different places that he could be going, unless you have played enough Zach to know, like, oh, he's going that fast, he must be landing there. Like, I think that's really nice, even though it's like 3/4 of a second's a long time. I know that doesn't sound like a lot if you're taking it out of like league context, but that's a very long time to be able to get out.
Yeah, it's faster than a Malphite ult, or slower than a Malphite ultimate. You have more time to react to it. So, and if you can already flash a Malphite ultimate, you can dodge a wrench. I mean,
you can dodge an elastic ball.
I shouldn't have liked that, but I did like that. I shouldn't have liked it. I'm not proud, but I like
Yorick, Eulogy of Isles. If Yorick summons the maiden inside of a lane, she'll start pushing the lane. So just make it
thank God
work better. Yeah.
Have you been playing a lot of him? Fun?
No, I have not. But the maiden would not do what I said.
She
Any
was,
game. She's got her own thing going. Like, hey, maiden, let's push this lane. There's creeps right there. She's like, no, I'm going to follow you into the jungle.
her and Daisy, man,
But-
they are having they are playing a different game.
Yeah, what happened in the good old days when the AI just did whatever the fuck it wanted? At least it did
I know,
something.
right? Can't I issue command? That would be so much easier if I could
Times
just issue
when
commands.
Daisy doesn't do anything, and it's
I noticed that.
Why are you doing what? I need you to attack something at this point. You're standing here while I get attacked.
I played Ivern in a custom game just to kind of get an idea of his abilities before I went on vacation. And I was like, all right, Daisy, go attack these minions. I'm just going to let you do your thing. She's like, I killed the minion. I'm coming back. And she walked back to me. I'm like, no, stand in the minions and attack. What are you doing? Like, I'm like screaming at the computer.
I am willing to bet that a lot of Ivern's problems right now are Daisy's AI. Like, I think that's what's causing a lot of people to really fail with her, is just they don't have the micro down because no champion has required that level of involvement prior to him. And so, if they either when people get good and experienced because they committed so hard to him, or they clean up the AI a bit and make it a little bit more user-friendly, that's probably what's going to push him over the edge and actually make him a good champion.
Right. Ziggs has had a change too. Then that's Explosive Minefield, the detonate timer. It checks every 0.1 second rather than 0.25 seconds. The problem was that, like, if you were, we'll say, Lucian and you dash through some mines, you might not get hit. And they're trying to make it now so if you are dashing through the mines, you're getting hit. That's what the change is. They want you. So if you are in the middle of the mines, you are getting hit no matter what. And that's pretty much. By the way, there's a loading screen indicator now. If you guys didn't know that, they added a spinning icon in the lower right-hand corner of the loading screen.
Nice. So if your screen freezes, that means you'll know because it's not spinning anymore. So do something about that.
By the way, Doom bots of Doom are now coming or are in the game. Are they in the game? Has anyone logged in and checked? I haven't been able to. None of us.
I haven't checked yet.
I
don't know if they're on today or later or what.
I'm dying.
Oh, he's dying.
Yeah, he's dying.
I think I have like a post-cruise sickness coming on.
Alcoholism?
Well, no, my liver. I give my liver a break for a couple days, though. I'll tell you that much.
Your body's punishing you for it. It became a custom.
It probably did. I was waking up at 8 a.m. and having screwdrivers and mimosas every day. But what else would you do when you're on vacation, right?
Exactly that.
Right. And then there's a bunch of like bug fixes and stuff, and if you care about them, go check them out. There's nothing like crazy in here that I... Jesus Christ, Zeus just fucking smited my backyard. Fuck.
Well...
It's like, oh yeah, I could hear that. That's like when I was podcasting in a storm a couple weeks ago, and when you guys were like, "Are you okay?" Like, it sounds like you shouldn't be.
All right, well that's it. That's patch 6.21. We're not ending the podcast here, though. Everyone was probably like, "Yay, we finally don't have to listen to their voices anymore."
They're done.
What if I hit stop?
Then you aren't talking about the rest of the podcast or the rest of the stuff, but we are, and we have teased it, we have talked about it, and we have sort of talked about it.
We committed an entire speculative podcast to it.
The preseason update has started. If you haven't checked it out, please go to surrenderat20.net and go check out all of the changes that are on the PvE. There is still more to come, so whatever changes are on here, like the jungle changes aren't on the PvE yet. The mastery changes are not on the PvE yet because they haven't released all of those changes. And yeah, you guys speculated what you thought might happen, and did any of it come true?
Yep, I got the Talon. I got the Talon part right.
Just casual from Lola. He was all, actually, you guys are pretty close to the mark given what we were working with.
He thinks we were right.
Yeah, so
I trust him.
I don't, but whatever. He's saying I'm right, so I'll take it.
I remember the LeBlanc discussion. You're like, oh, you guys are like, well, we have no idea how they're gonna make her more deceptive. Like maybe they move this, maybe that, and now they did. So we'll just kind of like roughly hit on some of the changes today. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of roughly talk the next 30 minutes. We're going to kind of talk about what there is and just kind of give like a preview of what is on there. And over the next like 4 episodes, we're going to start breaking it down. Probably on Monday, we'll do like Katarina and LeBlanc, then Rengar and Talon, and then we'll go through Akali Echo Fizz, Kazakh Shaco Zed, for example. Then we'll talk about jungle changes. We'll talk about masteries. We'll dedicate podcasts to all of these, but we kind of want to give you guys a preview of what's happening. Yeah, go ahead.
If this is your first season playing a League of Legends at all, this is pretty normal for the off season. This is what Riot does. It's just time to screw with the game that they so meticulously balanced over the course of 11 months, give or take, and just totally flip it on its head and make bad stuff good, make good stuff bad, make things that were working fine totally different. Maybe it'll be terrible.
I forgot these heroes existed, and now they're really good. That kind of stuff.
Adding new items, taking out old items. Yeah, they're taking out wards again.
Yeah, who needs wards?
So, okay, let's talk. I'm here, right? The very first person in this list is Katarina, and they made it so. Which ability? I know Shunpo dashes you to a dagger or an ally now, right? Did they make it so? Enemy. Yeah, did they make it so that she appears wherever your cursor is at?
Yeah.
Is that how Shunpo works now?
More or less, yeah. I think it's only if you are targeting an enemy.
And so wherever your cursor
if it's a dagger, you land out right on top of the dagger, and I think if it's an ally, you pretty much appear right on top of the ally.
She can Shunpo to anywhere around a unit instead of always behind it, and that's controlled by the player's mouse relative to the target. That's the explanation given. Wherever your mouse cursor is around the target, that's where you'll land.
I'll never be able to do that ever in my entire life. I'll always just appear right in front of them. Be like, hi, I'm taking turret shots because I couldn't go behind the turret.
I am right here. Shoot me with things.
Yeah, because you don't have to cast it right on top of them. She still does damage if you blink near them.
Yeah, so if you end up, I just watched the video of it. When you start the cast ability, like if you don't have smart casting on, what it does is it pulls up a circle, and as long as and there will be a circle around an enemy or around a dagger, and as long as the circle overlaps, you can go there. Is what it seems to be able to do. So it seems pretty intuitive for how you can position yourself. It's not just like, oh, I wonder if that's in range. It seems like it's pretty easy to tell.
I mean, the changes to her ultimately they're making her highly mobile because she's playing around these daggers that drop. 2 of her basic abilities place a dagger on the ground in some respect. Her Q is staying relatively the same. The only difference is that now, like at the end of it, a dagger appears on the ground, and then her W, which used to be Sinister Steel, I think it was called, which was the big go in and do the one quick spin of damage as opposed to the ult spinning damage. This one, now she just throws a dagger on the ground and gets movement speed. Anytime she picks up a dagger, she does AoE damage, immediately around her. But she can Shunpo to enemies, allies, or daggers. No longer wards, I believe. I believe they got rid of that because they added daggers. She can Shunpo to the daggers, and Shunpo gets a dramatically reduced cooldown. And Adam was telling me earlier that he saw Skara play it for a little bit, and Skara was just zipping her like he was untouchable because he had so quickly figured out. And Skara's a longtime Katarina player, but he so quickly figured out how you can just hop around to all of these daggers and murder everything before people could even respond to it.
I think he started in the middle of the lane, and then somehow he hopped into the enemy turret and then back out again and got the go. And he didn't seem very excited about it. He just kind of felt like it was par for the course, I guess. Just judging from his reaction, he was like, yeah, you can do that with Katarina now. You can just jump wherever you want.
Based on those changes, it sounds like they're almost missing the mark with Katarina, because it seems like there aren't a lot of windows of opportunity. If she gets the daggers on the ground, then you're screwed. Is there counterplay to the daggers? Should your opponents be able to step on them like Zach Blobs or something like that? What are you supposed to do about the daggers?
The daggers only last 4 seconds, and
that's a long time.
That's it's
yeah,
about
but But they're in one place. It's not like the W she places pretty much where she is. Like it tosses up in the air and it drops to where she casted W. And then the Q is the Q. It looks like it. I mean, it only bounces twice now, so it's not actually, or so it hits 3 targets max, which is not going to push nearly as hard. I think because she could just like hit the entire wave and it would mark them, and then you could use your W to clear that really really quickly. I think you're going to be able to see it, and once you know where the daggers will land, you'll be able to play around it. But
I mean, it still sounds like it's ultimately just a reflex game. Yes, you'll see the daggers. Can you move away from the daggers faster than she can cast her abilities to murder you?
It's pretty much the same.
I mean, but that's the game that she's playing right now. And it sounds like they were trying to get away from that with the assassins.
But if it dropped immediately, I'd say yeah, I'd agree with you. But since there's still that travel time for the dagger with both Q and for the W, it doesn't drop it immediately. Like it looks like it took maybe a second and a half to drop. Like there's a good, I think, still going to be a good bit of window to outplay that. Also, Scarra beating up on people in the PvE.
Yeah, no, I don't read too much into that. But
no, you gotta keep in mind too that like I just did a replay review yesterday with Sean talking about Olaf, and Olaf's axe is a 7-second cooldown, and the axe sits on the ground for about 4 seconds, and there's a lot of counterplay with that where yes, the difference is that she can jump to the dagger and instantly do damage, but it's kind of like the same thing with Olaf. He throws the axe and then has to run to it and pick it up, and they can immediately throw it again. And your counterplay with that is to not be in where his axe is, or to outplay where the axes would go, or to outplay where that dagger might land. Like it's a similar mini game, and you got to play into these throwing weapons. So it's already out there for the most part. If you're used to playing an Olaf matchup, this really shouldn't be too big of a surprise when you're playing into somebody that's throwing daggers around and jumping, and using them.
Don't get me wrong. I think these are really good changes, and they make her a lot more interesting than hop in, press all the buttons, deal all the damage, and then either you pentakilled or you're getting killed. I am just worried that of all the assassin changes that they've introduced to this, their goal was, as Punch said earlier, adding windows of opportunity for counterplay, and I feel like this one has the most risk of really not adding those appropriately.
I guess potentially. The cooldowns are long enough, though, and they've increased. I'm curious to see if maybe eventually we're going to see some of the base stat changes come in effect, because they did increase her base health to 590 while increasing her base health regen to 1.5. And also the health regen growth is up to 0.14 from 0.11. So she actually has a lot of, and she has more MR too, 31.4 instead of 32.1. So she has a lot more, and her armor went up too. Sorry, her stats have all increased. So just think about all her base stats for the most part, besides like move speed and base health growth, have all increased, making her harder to bully out of lane. And so I'm curious if that's going to be what's being touched rather than like the damage on daggers and whatnot.
That with increased mobility. I've got the same fear Dom does. Like it's going to be really. I'm not very optimistic about how much opportunity you're going to have to outplay her in lane. Maybe it's really easy to just not stand on the daggers, or maybe she won't care and she'll just jump to the dagger, hit you in the face, and then jump back.
Well, that's one thing. We'll have to give her a try over the course of the next couple of days up until Monday when we come back and talk about him again. Let's jump into LeBlanc too, because she's had a pretty significant change. So what they did with LeBlanc is they took the Sigil of Malice and they moved it to her passive essentially. So when you detonate, that detonate ability she had is now on her passive. So she can land 2 abilities in a row and detonate without having to use her R to detonate it. So she can QE.
So it's interesting.
But important to note is that it has a 1.5 second charge time before you can consume it, so you can't do the quick draw
essentially. Yeah.
Doing the quick draw like you're probably used to doing is not nearly as effective, because you're not going to get the bonus damage if you're moving too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's also it's worth noting that the E, the amount of time that E takes to pop, I guess, because that still is the same. That ability works the same, is exactly 1.5 seconds. So it actually consumes the passive mark. It starts the passive mark on the first hit, and then the second hit of it consumes that mark, and so you get the bonus passive damage off just with an E.
That is a good point. Like, and I remember noting that, but thank you for bringing it up again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other. I don't understand her ultimate yet. I have no idea how that works. And somebody posted on our law that said, like, here's all the new combos you could do. It was getting down to like 15 letters long. I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. I don't.
R plus W plus W plus E, Q plus R plus Q plus W, Q R Q W E. Yeah, I don't. It's got a description for each one. Like, this is what this does. This is what this does. This is your basic poke combo.
If I'm understanding it correctly, using R currently makes it work the same way it does on live.
Not the same exactly. It's you can Q R Q, or you can Q R W, or you can Q R E. Like, you can choose what ability you want to copy with it. You don't have to use the very last ability that you
Oh, okay.
used.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's an important distinction then. But then you can also use R twice, and using R a second time has a very different effect. Specifically, it creates they're calling it a mimic, and I really hate that they're using that term that way. It creates the decoy that used to be attached to her passive, or that's attached to her passive on live. And it says, the mimic appears at target location and approaches the closest visible enemy champion, then casts a fake version of LeBlanc's most recent basic ability, which I think is really cool. And I also wonder what the range is on this ability.
They said
because
it's global.
That's amazing. And
That is pretty sweet.
She's going to do some really fucked up shit.
If I remember correctly, they said it was global. Like, you could. Like,
I'm in favor of that until it's proven to be totally broken and they have to add a range to it. But I think that's a really, really cool way of handling that ability. Like, just imagine bot lane, because we all play there. You're going in for a game, like, and you start a fight, and you're saving exhaust, for example, to get something going, and all of a sudden this LeBlanc comes running at you. 80 carries. What are you going to do? What's your immediate response going to be?
Run
Scream
away
like a little girl.
Yeah, the support.
Hover the flash button.
You're probably going to panic exhaust LeBlanc and everything until you get used to how this ability works. But then you're basically living in a state of paranoia because, like, okay, here's the first ability. Is a second one coming, or did I totally screw us because I let her get that? I let her get the chains off.
Meanwhile, the real LeBlanc is ganking top lane.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait a second. Sorry, guys.
I think that's really, really cool. It's one of those cases, like, it sort of opts you into playing the mini game with LeBlanc, but I think, like, the potential there is really high and really interesting, and probably ultimately really, really infuriating to play against, but it's so much cooler than what she has going on right now.
I anticipate it would be obvious to detect it if it really is just LeBlanc walking at you and then casting Q or whatever, because most LeBlancs probably going to walk in a straight line at you, but I fully anticipate better LeBlanc players.
There's a lot of LeBlancs that really just do that. They're running at you because they...
I mean, if it's actually global and you can tell it where to go and you can tell it how to walk, right? Like, you can make we'll assume it works. I haven't played with it yet and I haven't seen a video, but if it works like a Rumble Ultimate where you kind of drag which way you want it to walk and you click on the person, right? For example, why not make it come out of a bush?
It says it approaches the closest visible.
Okay,
champion.
There you go. Yeah.
So it doesn't. It watching the video, it literally just walks up, tries to cast an ability, and disappears.
But they did cast it in a bush. So
yeah, he cast it in a bush and it walked out.
Next to it, then that's your perfect timing. I guess the target.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, all of a sudden, I mean, she leaves lane for a second, and then all of a sudden, this clone comes at you from any of the brush in either lane. You're gonna panic. Like, it doesn't even matter how. I mean, you have to have so much discipline to not panic under those conditions. And I think that's really, really cool. But it's got a long as cooldown.
That's actually what I was gonna say.
It that way.
It's got about triple the cooldown of the normal mimic. Like, you can use a mimic ability every like 50 seconds at rank 1, but that has a 2.5 minute cooldown. If you use the fake one, essentially, even though the other ones do like a ton of damage, but obviously don't provide the same amount of. Also, what it looked like to me is that when you use the mimic with Q, W, or E, you do go invisible for a second, whereas with the mimicked one, you don't. It didn't look like you go invisible at all. So I don't know how that'll play into things. I don't know if it makes you untargetable, kind of like Shaco does when he pops his ult, because you kind of do split here. I think you kind of have to go
Oh yeah, just so they don't know which one's the real one.
I think that plus I think like you could do like some really cool plays with Shaco ulting like a Karthus ult. Like you could time it really well, or Zed when he becomes untargetable.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you have the same ability to do that with this. Now that you're like the old passive, you weren't like timing when to go below 30% health. This you might be able to use it at a certain point to, I don't know, drop like a Fizz ult or something if you time it right.
Let's also note that although the first scenario we laid out where you use R to mimic yourself and then fool somebody out is really, really cool. It's also really hurting your gank potential if you're using it, again, to like fake out bot lane and then you gank top. So there is a trade-off for that. Because you're losing a lot of damage.
Right.
Good point.
Something that we didn't mention either is that they wanted to remove the LeBlanc's... They wanted to remove the WRW combo for clearing waves because they did increase the timer on how long the cooldown the cooldown on R. So what they did is they made Shatter Orb that if you Shattered Orb when Shatter Orb is empowered by Sigil of Malice, the spell bounces to the nearest ready Sigil of Malice. So you could pretty much prep a wave with a W and then Q it and it'll kill the whole wave. So you don't have to WW anymore.
And wasn't Sigil of Malice the old Q ability name, and they're giving Q a new ability name?
Yeah, it's called Shatter Orb now.
Yeah, don't you guys miss when it was Sigil of Silence and it silenced when it did damage whenever you popped it?
Well, that was good times.
Yeah, I really missed that.
I'm getting bursted down and I can't do anything about it.
Wow. Oh, and now I'm rooted too. Look at me. This has been a good life that I lived.
But yeah, her passive can't go on the same person for 5 seconds. So that's what that bounce for Shattered Orb is talking about. Is when you cast it on your Sigil of Malice target, it's going to look for someone that hasn't been hit by Sigil of Malice within 5 seconds. I think.
No.
Right?
It's looking to. It'll look to bounce to targets where if it bounced to that target, it would proc the second part of the package. Yeah, sorry.
So one that already has it on it.
Yeah, so you can put it on a bunch of people, and then it would go through all of them.
So you have to hit something with W or.
Yeah, or a second Q if you have a mimic Q. It's or an E or anything like that.
I think you hit something with W and then
it's usually the thing
you hit
for.
Q.
Okay.
Man, I can't wait to use Mimic's RR ability on like junglers who are doing camps and stuff for like junglers.
Yeah,
because it says
panic.
you can create a clone anywhere on the map. That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
LeBlanc players are going to now wish that Clairvoyance was still in the game so that they could just scout stuff out and then send their clone in there to really couldn't fuck with people.
Yeah, it doesn't do any damage, but it fucks with people. It's great.
I think it's cool that you don't when you hit your R to like prep the next ability, it doesn't show anything. Like your opponent gets no indication that you've started to use that. I think until you pop the ability, and then it's obvious because there's two using the ability, or somebody sees a fake one come out of nowhere. But I wonder if you get vision too. I assume that with a 2.5 minute cooldown, you're probably gonna get vision even if you didn't have vision at that time. Anywhere on the map.
Can't say. Don't know.
Oh, vision
with the clone. Yeah, I assume you have to get vision. That actually I should be able to find out from just looking at that brush video. So
we'll just wait. Man, Rengar's had some changes. He's had some changes, guys. Like, did you guys read through his changes?
Yep.
Yeah, I out of all the champions that they are updating, Rengar is the one I have the least familiarity with. I've played against him a bunch, and I don't like doing it. So my hope is that they just nerfed him into the ground, and nobody ever plays him again. I doubt
he's
that's
broken on the
PvE
PvE right now. If you spam your taunt ability, you do damage, and then you can just stand there and just spam it and kill anything you want really, really quickly. It's really cool.
That's
fun.
Good. So
it's just like the old AP Rengar.
Yeah,
no different, really.
People on the PvE are building him AP.
Sounds like usual.
You mean just for that,
normal.
Right?
Yeah, just for that.
Killing somebody?
They just spam.
I'm about to say, I'm like, there's nothing else that scales with it except the W. Because holy crap, if that's what you're getting all the damage from, then they're not doing this thematically.
The taunt is bugged and cast W right now, so they just spam it and it does tons of damage. It's pretty funny to watch. Go find some videos. So some changes to him is that his passive, leaping to enter combat, generates 1 ferocity. So if you leap from a bush, you gain a ferocity. At 4 ferocity, his next ability is empowered. Casting empowered ability increases Rengar's movement speed by X for 1.5 seconds. It's X is 30%, and it's also modified.
I think that you're losing the ability to have separate global cooldowns on them, so you can't like QQ anymore, which is not like a crying joke. It's more like you can't use Q twice in a row like you used to be able to. I think that using the empowered one will put the whole ability on cooldown, not just the empowered or unempowered, depending on which one you use.
I like it.
So I think that's pretty big. I mean, also because you can now generate ferocity way quicker because your abilities also generate ferocity too. Like you still get that. It doesn't look like. So one thing that's weird with ferocity is that it used to be you have to like hit a target to get those. Like you wouldn't get ferocity if you didn't hit a target with your QW or E. Well, obviously Q is a target ability, so you had to do that. I don't know if that's gonna be the same now because the way it's worded, it says generates 1 ferocity. It doesn't say on hit or anything. So I wonder if you could just build up ferocity from casting your abilities similar to how Annie does, but obviously there's no mana cost, so you're not really wasting anything.
I can't find the reference to it now, but I thought I read somewhere that ferocity will now fall off out of combat, and that's probably why they made that change. If so,
okay.
Right.
So that he needs to build up the ferocity during a fight. He can't just get the max stacks and then gank somebody.
Yeah, Q has been changed. So
sorry, real quick. Yeah, it's all ferocity is lost upon exiting combat.
right.
Oh yeah, there it is.
So
Yeah, that's why you can build it up.
it's not even like a slow decay or anything.
Oh. It says no longer has to damage an enemy though. Okay, so that is true, but it also does get lost.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Q has been changed. It slashes all enemies in an arc before piercing all enemies in a line.
Which occurs much faster than it sounds like it occurs.
Yep.
So he slashes in front of him, and then a line goes out and does damage.
More or less.
He also jumps forward a little bit on that for the cast range on the piercing portion of it. So the second part you do
slashing
actually
with
move.
his dagger, then lunging forward essentially.
Yep.
Okay. Each hit deals X plus X% bonus AD damage. Right
Yeah,
now.
they can't get the numbers. They can't get numbers right now because he's disabled.
But yeah, because of the taunt passive thing. Battle Roar deals. It's still the AOE like it was before, where it deals 50 to 170 plus 0.8 AP magic damage to all nearby enemies and heals Rengar 50% of the damage he took in the last 1.5 seconds. So instead of gaining life for everything you've hit, you gain life for how much damage you've taken.
Which the healing used to only be on the empowered one, right?
Right.
So now it's kind of like getting a mini Echo amount of Echo ultimate health back. That's interesting. The ferocity part's way
that
cooler,
definitely helped this jungle clear a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's for. In the middle, I mean, it could be.
Does it help him during laning? For the lane Rengars out there?
It can't hurt.
Well, yeah, it's not gonna hurt, but I mean,
you're gonna
right after a trade. Yeah,
you're gonna
it's
heal
it's
for
within
does
the
it suddenly make that almost a better way to play him? I guess is what I'm.
It's hard
Because lane Rengar was the thing for like a season almost, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say that the main change on there. I'm pretty sure you used to gain armor and MR based on how many champions you hit with it.
Oh yeah,
just regardless, and that's going away. You're not so. It was kind of not so strategic. You jumped in and immediately used it. That was kind of the idea. Now you have a little bit of thinking to go into when you want to use it because you'll get health back based on how much you've lost. You got bonus. Yeah, increase of 50% for each effective.
I'm rude and I cut Adam off before we even got to the part that infuriates me.
Oh, yeah, W now removes existing crowd control effects, prevents incoming ones for 1.5 seconds.
Empowered W. Jesus Christ, not normally. That would be so ridiculously powerful.
I don't see the problem, Dom.
No, all of these.
Only got a 20-second cooldown now.
But yeah, but all of these, he's. I mean, even that just makes him busted beyond belief. Every video I've watched of him, it's just shown me that the new Rengar is busted as fuck. So
utter insanity.
I don't think it's that crazy considering there's now a spell shield item in the game. So.
Bullet strike throws
Adam,
a bola.
what is going on? Why is your camera shaking up and down?
Because I'm shaking.
What are you
like
doing
Earthquake.
there?
Just
okay.
I'm like moving. So Bola Strike, he throws a bola out. It slows the first enemy hit for 1.5 seconds. If he has ferocity, it deals additional damage and roots the target for 1.75 seconds.
It's the same thing.
So yeah,
Nothing changed here.
Empowered W is the only one that's really different.
Well, Q's different too.
Oh, the slows
does
down
more
actually a
damage.
lot. Holy shit, the slow's way down on
Well,
E.
Q used to give you increased attack speed
Yep.
when you used it.
More damage.
And more
And
damage.
the double cast was a ton of damage to begin with.
It's the same thing.
So Thrill the Hunt, there's no ferocity here in Thrill the Hunt. Rengar's predatory instincts take over, causing him to camouflage. Remember, that's the distinction, camouflage and invisibility, which we will get to. For 14, 22, 30 seconds, he instantly goes camo, by the way. There is no more charge up time with the camo. That is one thing. While active, Rengar gains 40% movement speed and vision of the nearest enemy champion within 2, 3, 4,000 range, who he can leap to for a guaranteed critical strike. Attacking or casting most spells ends Thrill the Hunt. So he can just jump in and get a guaranteed critical strike. Bust.
There's kind of the demo of his abilities shows how this works. They lined up 3 enemy champions in one of the river brush, and just showed him walking, and how the range, like the vision and the range change and everything. And it was a little bit confusing to me at first, just watching it that way. I quickly understood what was going on once he jumped in. That might throw a few people, since I think right now he kind of gets vision of. Does he get vision of everything in the radius of him, or?
He gets
Pretty
more,
sure,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
It also makes sense. Anyone crying OP about either of two things. One, stealthing instantly. It's not really stealthing because if it's like Eve's stealth, if the champion's nearby, you can still see him. So you can't just like immediately stealth it. It's like, oh no, how did? Yeah. That'd be ridiculously powerful. The other one is it reads gains vision of the nearest enemy champion within 2,000 to 4,000 range, who he can leap to. It's not you can leap 4,000 range. It's the same leap as normal. So don't think that you've got a Nocturne ult coming out from this, because that would also be ridiculously overpowered. Oh, that'd be
I
really
can't.
funny.
Now only reveal. Oh, this puts eyes over the target that both teams can see. Yeah. So somebody, when Rengar is close to somebody, that person also knows that Rengar is close to them.
Yeah, they have like a little predatory eyes over their head.
But
Rengar can see you, and you can't see Rengar, but you know that he can see you.
so is his leap range out of range of how close you have to be to see him through camouflage?
That is a fantastic question.
Because that would kind of defeat the
His
point.
leap range is 725. I don't know what the camo range is yet. I'm sure if I just control F camouflage, I'll find out in like 2 seconds.
Right, but if you're
Assuming it's
trying
the same for
to,
everyone, yeah.
if you mark Poppy, because that's who's closest, but you're actually trying to leap to and murder Nami, but you have to go through Poppy to get there. Like that's where that whole vision and leaping thing is going to really come into play.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't see a number on it.
Okay.
It's probably the same thing as Eve's. I don't know what that is. If you give me a minute, I'll probably find
Eve's
it.
range is 700.
So that's
He's
out
got
of
a
range.
little bit more range.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be out of you wouldn't see him until he's in midair, essentially.
Awesome. I'd have it no other way as an AD carry.
Cool.
Well, welcome to the patch.
Welcome to Assassin World.
Are you under attack again? More lightning strikes?
You guys can talk.
For the listeners at home.
All right, well, we'll
he
just
is
keep going. We'll
staring
go on to the
into
last one. We'll go on to the last one. That's the big one for this patch is Talon, which we kind of talked about, and I think I called it pretty well. He can go parkour now, hardcore parkour Talon, which would be an amazing skin, by the way, Riot.
He
I
needs
think
to
it'd
go
be
parkour.
fantastic.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Just
Do
get
it.
Schmidt's voice actor to come in and do work for that skin.
No, wait. Did you say Schmidt?
Schmidt from New Girl.
No, you mean
Yeah.
like Office, where they're doing the parkour scene with Andy and Dwight and Michael, and they're parkour. They keep saying parkour, and they're running around the office. That's what I always. Whenever I hear parkour, that's what I think of.
I had forgotten that, but the Schmidt thing is the exact same joke, basically.
Okay, great.
So yeah, the changes here. Another 3-hit passive. Surprise, guys.
Excellent.
It's his spells do a stacking similar to kind of how Vel'Koz works. And if you basic attack somebody who has 3 stacks on them, they bleed for a ton of damage over 2 seconds. which is kind of cool. I mean, a ton is like
you can stack it up. W out and W in each adds a stack, and then an auto attack adds a third to the execute of a Q. So you can pretty much all in some, because Q is also now it's a dash, and I won't call it
Assassin's Creed style.
Yeah, you jump to them and you do tons of extra damage with your Q. You can all in somebody at level 2 now in lane with Ignite and pretty much kill them as long as you get your W.
Just a real quick sidebar. I like his visuals a whole lot more now. Talon on live is really bloody. Just every single one of his abilities does or makes a whole bunch of blood in some spot, and that's fine. It wasn't an issue in and of itself. But upon seeing these, I thought, oh wow, this looks a lot crisper and cleaner, and I just walked away with a favorable impression.
Oh yeah, like his W looks better now too. The way it goes.
Yeah,
out.
It also goes out and like stays for a second before coming back in, which is way better than the kind of just like boom boom that it used to do. I am really concerned about his Q change because they made it leap. I think it was already the leap anyways, but
no, it was a blink.
It's always a blink, yeah. So he leaps now.
Q wasn't the blink. E was the blink.
Okay, whatever. Either way, the Q now has a little thing built into it where it says when it kills a unit, Talon regains 17 to 15 health and refunds 50% of its cooldown. So that's cool on champions like Aurelia, where you reset part of the cooldown when you gain some of the mana back. But this is getting health back, and that's like a significant amount. If you can say, if like let's say that's at 4 seconds at rank 1. Rank 1, you're getting back 17 health every 4 seconds if you want to last hit with it.
It's an 8-second cooldown. Oh, I guess you're 4 if you're having
it.
Yeah.
It's 30 mana. So you're not really spending very much there. I feel like you could end up getting a lot of health back in lane, which I guess maybe that's one of his weaknesses early on, is not being able to survive laning. But now he's able to roam around the map at a much healthier rate and parkour over things, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
the flip to that would be if you're trying to use it to really quickly wave clear or something like that. When you suddenly start to go roam, you're not going to have a ton of mana to do anything once you get to the lane, and that kind of feeds into the parkour ability.
Yeah, but you don't need it. You are also saving mana on the E, which is no cost.
Well, sure.
It's interesting. His ult also, when I watched the video of it, it didn't look like he burst the blades out with the first cast of it. It looked like it just they just appeared after a second, which was kind of weird. I don't know if that was a visual bug, but it looked like it was a little bit different than before.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. It kind of works like his W now, where they go out and they spin and they come back in. I was going to say something to note about his E. You're gonna have to go in and play around, because he can jump over any terrain, right, in the entire game. But like, for example, if you're running through top lane, if you're running through the river brush in top lane and you press it, you might not necessarily go over the wall. You might just kind of like run along the side of the wall and fall down. You can go over like the big portion of it. If you don't do it in the right spot, you just kind of like parkour and fall off the wall. And then you're like, well, that was a waste of a cooldown, because then the terrain goes on 150 seconds cooldown.
Oh yeah. The ability cooldown's really fast, but that's cool. I like that, the terrain cooldown.
Yeah, and the terrain is then marked by a big red round, and like the terrain makes sense, right? Wherever the terrain starts and ends is what you can jump over. So if you do it in the dragon pit, for example, you can't go over the dragon pit for another 150 seconds because it's the entire fucking dragon pit.
There's a note here at the end, which I know is reading, it just reads way funnier than it actually is, probably. Talon crashes the server when using E in a number of places on the Crystal Scar. I'm like, I hope that doesn't mean an entire server, because that sounds ridiculous. They probably just maybe
he's down, guys.
The game.
Yeah,
I mean, he disabled him. He disabled him on unsurprisingly.
Yeah, so we'll be seeing a lot of this, and we'll be playing some of this and streaming some of these this weekend as well for any of those guys who are around. But kind of go, like, if you want to see it, Surrender at 20 has a preview. Like I said, if you're not careful where you're jumping, like, you can't jump over like the longest part of a terrain. What I mean. Like, if that terrain is, I'm holding my fingers up, like the length of the lane, you can't
go long ways.
Yeah, you can't.
It doesn't work.
You can't do the bard. You can't do bard. Yeah, which is, you can do the small portions of bard, but you can't do like I'm gonna run all the way across this thing. Doesn't quite work.
Also be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw a tweet earlier that made me laugh. That was, this is really bringing up the question of how large are the champions in comparison to Summoner's Rift, because if Talon can jump over these mountains, are they really mountains?
Or trees, for that matter. He's hopping over a bunch of trees.
Right. But yeah, those I want to give you guys, any out there listeners, a quick preview of what is to come. Those are the major reworks, and there's a bunch of minor ones that are still pretty major in and of themselves, but these are what they're calling the major reworks right now.
Where do we each stand on this? To me, Talon and LeBlanc, really, really cool. Really excited about these. Feeling really cautious about Katarina, and really unhappy about Rengar because that double change is bullshit. Fuck that.
This doesn't seem all that different to me.
Well, I'm all for all these changes. I like them all. The Rengar one, probably not, but just because I don't want to see Rengar in a game because I hate the champion, but he's going to be busted as fuck, and I love it.
Yeah, he's going to be busted. Fuck that.
I'm excited for the items.
Wait, you love it.
There's a bunch of cool item things happening.
Oh, I love it. I love it anytime a champion's busted. Well, here's the thing. Like, I tweeted last night, right? I'm like, oh, man, I love these assassin changes. I love them all. And I'm like, oh, fuck, wait, I'm a marksman maid now. I fucking hate these. I hate these champion changes.
Have you not played against many Rengars before?
This wasn't that heavy. Like, it wasn't an assassin-heavy season when it really comes down to it, as far as the
That's true.
Meta champions went. So, no, he hasn't really lived in the miserable times where assassins were everywhere, and an assassin that left the lane meant that both the AD carry and the support were going to die. At least, and a lot of people are going to hate this, at least we have Tahm Kench now, so Tahm Kench can eat the AD carry, then get murdered by the assassin, but then the AD carry lives.
That doesn't make any sense. I feel like if you kill Tahm Kench, like if you do enough damage to somebody who ate somebody else, that person probably died too.
He's who I pick into, like, whenever I see Rengar at this point, because Rengar presses R to come in and try to murder me, and I'm like, or murder the AD carry, and I'm like, no, you're not touching him.
Eat me all the time, Dom. Just put me in your belly and save me.
I've never played Tahm Kench with you.
No, you have not. That's because
I
pretty much. I mean, I can't say that. I make you play Morgana because you're like, I play Morgana, and then when we play with Sean's like, you need to play Alistar and make me a big boy. And so you are a slave to your friends.
I am.
Big changes
I'm
there
also
too.
a slave to my teammates in Champions, like, too. I hover Morgana, and they're like, no, you should pick Braum or Alistar. I'm like, fine.
I told you, don't do that. I told you just play Morgana.
I'm weak. What do you want?
I want you to be strong, Dom. Be a strong big boy, as Sean would say.
I play strong champions. I just don't have the will in Champion Select.
Well, I have the will to end this podcast because we have gone a little bit over an hour. Plus, there's not too much to talk about because I really want to dive deep and heavy into those. I finally get a chance to play them coming up in the next couple of days, and I'm going to jump on the PBE this weekend and kind of give you guys a preview of what's to come. I'm sure lots of you are checking out Surrender at 20 and our league and whatnot and seeing all these videos, but we really want to dive in there and try to play them as much as we can. So if you have a PBE account, maybe we can play together this weekend. What was that look for?
Oh, I'm looking through numbers
Punch.
on these items. Oh,
the control ward icon kind of creeped me out.
Oh, yeah, that one looks just
it does look pretty creepy.
Just a black eye.
So we will be back Monday talking more about these champions. We're just going to continue to give you a preview of everything that's going on, and we'll talk about what we experienced this weekend as we got to play them, or at least watch videos and whatnot. And that's pretty much it. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Trinity Force podcast. Thank you for supporting the Trinity Force Network. We have Patreon coming out here in the next week or so, as I know Mitch and Days are getting prep to record some episodes. So if you are a Patreon member, subscriber, thank you so much for supporting us. Patreon.com/TForce Network. If you want to grab some Champions Select podcasts, there's there'll be 34 of them by the end of this month. Is that right? Or
I think we're at more than that.
36 or something like that.
We're catching up, guys. It's a limited time offer considering we're going to run out of champions, maybe.
Maybe. Well, you know what? There's always the time to go back and retouch some of those champions that are being changed, which is going to be Rengar.
Don't ever want to do it. Don't. No.
I'll bring Bao on for a
shit. We already did Rengar. So.
I know, so we can bring him back on and do it again. Look at this double dipping. All right, that's it. That's the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Trinity Force Podcast. We will see you all on Monday.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.